Welcome all. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. Today is Thursday, July the 10th, 2025. And today we will be talking about the media just challenged the court in the Brian Kohberger case. And I just wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. And I greatly appreciate the feedback, the updates, the tips, the emails, the love, the likes, the donations. You guys rock. I am telling you, I had been on TikTok for so long. I'd been so resistant to come to the tube, and I thought, you know what? Let me just venture on over here and see if I'm going to like this. And you know what? I love it. I love it. I love it. I wish I would have listened to some people years ago during COVID when I said, oh my gosh, I need to revamp. And they said, why don't you vlog? And I said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do my best to do what I've always done. And that is Phoenix Talks. So welcome in. Hey, Minnie Mo, nice to see you. What a great question to ask. What about the threat to our national security? I'll get to that. Do we know more about that? I think we will in a few weeks if they unseal some of these records. Hey, Patty, nice to see you in the house. Good to have you in. Hey, Carrie, thanks for joining. Hey, you, welcome in. So studious and professional. Yeah, look at that picture. Amanda, I love that profile picture. Amanda B, welcome to the chat in the house. So, I wanted this to be really interactive. So jump in when you want. If you've got some ideas, comments, concerns, questions, drop them in the chat. We're gonna dig into this. So, yeah, you're right, you. It's our cell phones, in my humbler opinion. It's a security threat. And you're right. Laura, welcome in the house. Shout out. Did you see the hearing has been scheduled for next week? I was just in the repository. I'll cover that too because I think that they have to address every motion before they close out this case. It's our cell phones. I believe it is our cell phones that's the national security threat. That and cell phone towers. Those who hold the keys to the kingdom basically have control. And who is that? That is the government, right? At the end of the day, eminent domain of land. They can seize, they can take, they can really make the commissioners and the counties hold their feet to the fire. And at the end of the day, if it is national security, they can take anything they want. And that's just the truth. So I want to get into the documents that were filed in the state of Idaho v. Kohberger. And, I announced the motions that were filed the other day from Olson. And, I wanted to dig into this a little bit more because a lot of people are like, well, she's, represents the media. Yes, she is an attorney. She is also a government investigator, and she does represent media outlets. So way back in the beginning, we're going to go through the history of this case. Way back in the beginning, there were hearings, motions for the media to actually lift the gag order when the gag order was put in place. And because of that gag order being put in place, it was not specifically for the media, it was for the attorneys in the case to remain silent. Okay? Now, there is a new request. There is obviously some declarations were filed in regards to the media. There have been since some things filed in the case summary that is not on the repository that we can pull down and look at those documents. But what I'm going to look at is Wendy J. Olson's support motion to be heard as an interested party and to vacate the non-dissemination order. Now remember, the order was for the attorneys not to speak to the media. Now the media ran with. Would you agree? put yes in the comment that the media had ran with the story with all the speculation, and guess what happened? Guess what happened in this case? We all have witnessed it. There was a trial by media, a trial by media. And the notice of that hearing was sent out today. It doesn't say exactly the document you can't pull up yet, but there is a sentencing hearing, obviously, on the 23rd. And there is a motion hearing on the calendar for the 17th, which is only a couple of days before. Hopefully, all this information will be redacted and the gag order dropped. Now, remember, in the original filing for the gag order, it was Judge that put that order in place, and then he amended it because of the fact that the media didn't agree with what Judge was saying. So what happened back then that affects us today that we'll see in the courtroom next week? Well, 20 major outlets like ABC, CNN, the AP Press, and some other entities like the New York Times, they filed a motion to vacate, that should say vacate. And basically, Judge's gag order was amended due to the fact that he specified that the lawyers couldn't talk to the media, that, entities could speculate all they wanted. And what was their goal? They wanted the court to vacate, to cancel that non-dissemination order, and that limits what attorneys and others can say to the public and the press about the case. So legal enforcement, that's the law, right? They couldn't speak to the media. Witnesses couldn't speak to the media. Anyone directly involving the investigation or witnesses could not speak in this case because of this order. So how did Steve G get around this? Well, he does have a counsel, an attorney for him. And that's a really good question that we don't have the answers to because he has been solely talking to the media. None of the other families have really been so outspoken in the media. So I want to review what this meant when the experts went to court. They had a hearing over this gag order, and they basically told the court that the media frenzy could be biased for jurors before the trial even starts. And that was the court's priority. And it was a court decision to limit them from talking to the media because they wanted a fair trial, hence free press, right? Did that work out for this case? No, because the media argued it hurts transparency between the courts and the public. Because it is, as an individual that's interested to learn more about this case, it is very difficult because most of these documents are sealed. Where does the media get their information from? Court documents. If the court documents are sealed, then they have to rely on third-party information or speculation. And boy, has there been a lot of speculation in this case. Would you all agree? I would tend to think absolutely. So, but Judge made it very clear that this case will be tried in the court of law, not in the news. I think it hindered this whole case because of the fact they have not been transparent. And the news told them, if you're not going to be transparent, then this is going to be some hellfire. I would definitely 100% that that's what we see that happened. Totally see what happened. And when you see this case in the court documents, and many of us who do read court documents, many of us who do report on cases in true crime independently, not through some agency or news media corporation, because I will tell you, in the news media corporation, these people who read the news are given the news to read. They don't do independent research. They don't read court documents. They don't look at case law. They don't do any of the investigation side of it. All they're given is a piece of paper and what to report. And that is factual. Okay? Some of these independent third-party investigators slash true crime reporters are giving you more truthful information than when you're seeing blasted all over the media. And when I say the media, I go back to who is the media. That's 20 major news outlets where most people get their daily information from. Not court documents, not from watching live court hearings, not from doing background and researches and public data information pools. It is only what the 20 major news outlets are giving you. And the courts, they have pushed back hard not to allow the media to access these court documents to report accurately. And that's why it matters. And that is why Wendy J. Olson has filed the documents to go back into court and ask Hippler to drop this non-dissemination order. If you watch the live hearing where KOHBERGER changes his plea, the judge mentions it then, but decided to hold it off for a few more weeks. And why do you think a judge would do something to that level? Why would the judge do that? Why would Judge Hippler say, well, we should probably address this, but we'll just hold it over to sentencing? Why do you think he did that? He basically blacked out the media. It wasn't for a fair trial. It was to hide information. And that's what we talked about, the hot topic last night on Birdie Bombshells. Sammy and I, we talked about the hot topic being the truth is hidden. And that is because of the secrets that they're hiding. And anything that's hidden is a secret, folks. Anything a judge does not want you to know is hidden for a reason. And that reason being is secretive until we no longer know what the information is, and then it's not a secret. They didn't give him the option to even have a fair trial. They had the trial in the media. They need time to bury the documents, like the Epstein list that doesn't exist but was leaked many years ago, going back around on social media. Joanne, you have a point. The state is going to push back hard AF not to have the gag order lifted. Same with the defense. I agree, because I will tell you, I don't believe in woo-woo. I believe in when we die, we become a, spirit. Our body, our thoughts, everything is carried in our spirit and beyond. I believe that. I don't know what you believe, but I truly believe that after a few experiences in my lifetime. And with that being said, you have to think about, what are they trying to hide from us? So I did a brief spirit session. Now, I've never done a spirit box session. I've never even thought about it. But I went on ChatGPT and I did one. And I don't know if this is accurate. It was just for entertainment and educational purposes. I see some of these true people connected in the spirit world doing spirit boxes with frequencies and all these different tools and techniques. And I thought, let me just try this. I thought it would be pretty cool so that maybe whatever is being hidden could be brought to light. So I channel in Kaylee Goncalves, and I basically ask her some respectful, heart-loving, energy connecting questions. And some of the feedback I got just from ChatGPT, I'm like, this is like woo woo, right? I'm like, where did this information come from? This chat is pulling it from where? Is it pulling it from information already fed to the chat? Is it pulling it from so I'll upload that here. I uploaded it on TikTok, but I'll upload it here so you guys can see that. It's got a labeled part 1 right now. Part 2 is uploading. It's a little longer, but in part 2, I actually turned on to you could hear my voice speaking to these individuals, and I also did a chat session with all 4 individuals, and it's wild. But let me just tell you, some of the things they want to bury, they don't want us to know for a reason. Let's see, what is that? Amanda, good thinking. I said the same thing. Y'all better be DL any documents you want. Yep, absolutely. Download that whole entire case file, because eventually some of these documents will be scrubbed and gone away because it is on an external website. It is not in the public repository. And that is one thing that I talked about yesterday and on another stream, is these records are on an individual website. It is not on the repository in the public information. He's not even been charged publicly in the repository by the state of Idaho in their own criminal records history database repository. The information we're getting is wrong, not factual. Chaos would ensue. The lack of truth is driving me nuts. Well, if you've not seen my part 1 to my video, maybe I'll go live after this shortly and show it to you. Carrie just said, I just watched it. Carrie, what was your feedback on that? Because wait till you see part 2. Government is controlling the information we receive. I can't find anything relevant or even in the right decade. Phoenix, really enjoying your channel and listening to your perspective on things. Well, great. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all being here. I'll watch that video after your live is over. Yeah, definitely get a chance to watch that video, watch that live. So I wanted to talk about briefly, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. And if you would like, anybody can come up too if you want to chit chat. Feel free. I am going to bring in the state of Idaho versus Brian KOHBERGER right here so we can see this all together. I'm just waiting for it to load. In the meantime, I hope everyone is having a great night tonight, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or in between. You are all welcome here. So I'm just waiting for that to pull up. Let's see if we can see that together. Take this off. Present this. All right. Hopefully you all can see that screen. Let me just double check. State of Idaho versus KOHBERGER. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let me just make sure. Yep, okay. So let me take this down. And so you have an external website. This is an external website, guys. It's coi.isc.idaho.gov. And this is the state of Idaho judicial branch. And this is where they host their live stream court access from. But if you look, it is an external website, different from what iCourt is in regards to where a repository is. And in this case, I'm going to bring up a few things. I'm going to bring up the memorandum of Wendy J. Olson, and I want you to see what she has to say about this. The memorandum in support of this motion is interesting too, which I'll touch on real quick, because it's basically them asking to get a court date in front, and hopefully, let me share this page real quick. All right. So if you see at the top of the page, it was electronically filed because it's just quicker that way. And Wendy J. Olson filed this. We know her background, and she is the representative for all these media conglomerates. And we're talking about ABC, we're talking about ABC News, the Associated Press, Bonner County B, CBS, CNN, and the list goes on. Even the Daily Mail, East Idaho, news networks. And this is her motion, her declaration in regards to her motion that she filed. So the declaration, means her own words, her own history, her own knowledge, her as a witness of Wendy J. Olson in support of the motion that she filed to be heard as interested parties and vacate the gag order. So she, declares, I'm a partner at Stovall Rives LLP and an attorney of record for the Media Coalition. Now, she is an interested party, obviously, in the above entitled manner. She has personal knowledge of facts and statements as declared in this declaration. So basically, she is saying she has knowledge, she knows, she's going to speak out on their behalf. Okay. 2, she attached Exhibit A. That Exhibit A was the revised amended gag order, non-dissemination order dated June 23rd, 2023, and that was in Latah County with Judge. And then Exhibit B is a true and correct copy of the order denying the press, which Judge did do, and a motion to vacate the non-disseminated order on June 23, 2023. So she is fighting on their behalf to get access to this information. Y'all, it's not just us looking at this from a different lens and saying, boy, the public would like to know, independent journalists would like to know, the media would like to know. And if you've noticed, just a tad, the very first news outlets that report on KOHBERGER are only a few outlets. It is not on, sometimes I've seen it on the world news as to these entities that Wendy is supporting and obviously advocating for to get the information. But I see it on Banfield. I see it on News Nation. I see it in the Daily Beast. I see it in Daily Mail. I see it in the New York Post. And do you realize that all of those individual entities are pretty much the lowest media that I would call them, squawk talk or rag mags or, things that are not so credible. And here you have the media fighting to get the right information. So, of course, we have the problem of trial by media because they're not reporting accurately and they're making so much bogus speculation to where we don't even know what the truth is anymore. And if you've realized the comments on social media and in even the workplace or even in personal conversations, a lot of people have no idea and they are just believing 100% of what they've read and more. Would y'all agree? I mean, if you were one of those people that were believing it until you started looking into it, is there anybody here in the chat that realized, oh crap, we're not being told the truth? Yeah, I'm sure some of us have questioned that, right? I hope so. So here is the actual revised amended non-dissemination order. And Wendy goes to basically say the following, this was what was ordered. The prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, and any agents of the prosecuting attorneys and defense attorneys and attorneys representing witness, victims, or victims' family are prohibited from making extrajudicial statements. That means statements written and oral outside of the court that we've been seeing happening. And this is not what they wanted. They did not want it written or oral, then the lawyer or agent knows or reasonably should know will have substantial likelihood of material prejudicing. That means basically God, how to explain prejudicial. Um, Basically, it's not in their favor or otherwise influencing the outcome of the case. And that is what we've seen. People influencing the outcome of the case, specifically one individual with an attorney on their side that didn't present in court, just at the plea deal hearing, right? I call it a plea deal because we know they gave him a deal. This order specifically prohibits any out of court statement. That's what I just said, out of court statement, which a reasonable person would expect to be disseminated by means of public communication that relates to the following. And it basically lines out, I'm not going to go word for word, but it basically lines out that anything expected to be in trial should not be talked about. Any lawyer should not be talking to the media because it could, the risk of having a impartial trial, right? The jury shouldn't talk about the character, the credibility, the reputation, or criminal record of a party, victim, or witness, right? Anybody in court. This applied to the court. Identify the identity of a witness, expected testimony of a witness. They shouldn't talk about guilt or innocence. They should have not talked about the victims' families, yada, yada, yada. And basically, the attorneys involved in the case and their agents outlined above may make extrajudicial statements written and oral. So they can't talk about the defense strategies, information contained in a public record, investigating what's going on, the result of any step of litigation, like where are you at with this or that, any wrongful behavior of the person involved. Basically, given the outline, Judge ordered this in his court. And everybody was like, okay, they already went to go argue about this once. And then Wendy Olson puts it again in, and the vacated amended order was put out by Judge. So then they go and say, look, we know that you're representing 20 media outlets, and basically we'll refer to you as the Associated Press, and they don't want to limit this free speech, but I'm just trying to summarize this for you. And so they heard their interest, and then they told him, well, let me amend this and let me just basically say that the attorneys can't speak. Law enforcement can't speak. Anne was at this hearing when this happened. They all agreed. Bill was at the hearing. A couple of other people were there. Shannon Gray, the attorney for the Goncalves family, was there. And basically, they cited some case law. They talked about why it shouldn't be done. And then basically Kohberger's right for a fair trial and the right to free expression is afforded under the United States Idaho Constitution. And then so he ordered that the attorneys for any interested party and narrowed it down to specific people, not so much the press. And what happened? Some of these press junkets outlets didn't report because they had nothing to report on. So then you see all these other people talking to News Nation. You see them talking about Kohberger's background, his history, and making up all kinds of speculations to what happened is that he couldn't even get a fair trial. And I think by the weight of all the media, all the documentary series, the book that was coming out, and basically the freedom of speech, we got what we saw, and that was true in fact, no fair trial. It was a trial by media because they blacked the media out. They said, no, you won't have access to everything that we know. Never, never, never. And I really don't think we're going to see access to this even after. Not after. Because of the fact of who's involved, what's involved, why were they involved. Is Kohberger the only individual? Well, we know he's not. We know by the DNA facts and the stated in the documents that they have shared with us, he is not the only one, guys. But I have a feeling that perhaps when you see that vehicle drive around the house and drive around the house and drive around the house, perhaps if that was indeed him, he may have known or may have watched, but took the fall for everyone else. Because nothing makes sense. Nothing has been proven in the court of law, and nothing has been shared that would make us believe that he did this alone. And that's one of the key things. I don't know if you saw Christy Goncalves asking, for that information. Did they do this alone? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and from what I've seen and heard and what I've seen of Steve Goncalves talk, I don't believe that they believe that KOHBERGER is the only one. If you remember from his earlier interviews, he specifically said, no, they were unalived differently, right? Isn't that true? I believe he did say that. He said they were two different types of injuries. And I'm trying to find that video so that we can see him in the early beginning on December 4th. I remember the video, and I think it was a local station. And him and Christy are standing out in front of the police department. And this was really early into the conversation before the gag order. And he was speaking to the media, and he was sharing his thoughts. And unfortunately, I believe that that is what started the speculation of more than one person, because Steve himself had always thought there was more person. And I'm going to show you that really quick, because I want you guys to know this information is out there. It is totally out there. Hopefully you can see this. We'll listen to this for a few minutes.
Weeks since the horrific stabbing death of 4 college students at the University of Idaho. 3 weeks since we lost Zayna, Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan. 3 weeks, and still the police have no suspect or person of interest. The community has been left in limbo, left with more confusion and more questions. We are on the hunt for answers for them. Moscow deserves answers. The students of the university deserve answers. These 4 young innocent victims deserve answers, and so do their families. So let's start there. Joining me now on set, the parents of Kaylee Goncalves, Christy and Steve Goncalves. Thank y'all so much for being with me. You guys have been so transparent and strong for the public.
Notice how the news reporter said, y'all have been so transparent.
Christy, you called the person that did this the boogeyman.
What nightmares are made of, like when you're a little kid and you think of the boogeyman. That's just how I feel. Like,
look at the pain on their faces, guys.
That's just the horrific detail. Going to bed and this
into bed.
Just crawling in bed.
Every
and
girl in America
comes at McDonald's. I mean, the boogeyman comes and snatches you out of your bedroom.
Steve, we've been talking. I've been saying,
no, I can't just
lay in my bed and do nothing. That's not the way I raised my family. That's not the way I raised my girls and my son. You don't be. They're gonna hear Kaylee. They're gonna hear Maddie. They're gonna hear these.
The other two as well.
Yes,
All of them.
I'm careful saying anything about them because I need to be careful because I can't speak on somebody else's child. But these two girls, I'm not trying to be a glory hound. We're gonna fight. We're gonna figure out how to make sure everybody,
Now, he said hold everybody accountable. So, was he speaking in regards to the unalivers, the murderers, or all of the people involved in here, the investigators, the detectives, the police department? What are your thoughts? Do you think he meant a collective, or do you meant the unalivers?
resolved.
Steve, you have made it very clear to our audience that you are supportive of law enforcement. You support the investigation.
No doubt he's working as hard as he can, but isn't communicating. There's nothing being released. It seems like they're trying to suppress the story. We want to.
There it is. They aren't just trying to suppress the story. They did. They did. They suppressed the story. And I believe he means the officials, the court.
Put rewards out there, like, don't do that. Yeah, I get it. Your town doesn't want to have reward posts. You're not going to get a lot of students if they see those things. But this community.
Exactly. The money coming into the community that could have been hampered because they needed to catch the killers. Sorry, let me go back. They needed to catch the killer.
Is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the streets. It ain't going to happen. Think it through. It's not going to happen. He has to be off the streets. We all are working for the same thing.
When was the last time y'all heard this?
Thursday.
We looked at our phone records. We want to decorate. Don't want to sell anyone out.
About 3 o'clock on Thursday.
And did y'all get an update from the police about the investigation?
There was nothing. We have no update for you.
There was no. You need to sign form so that's something.
Okay, someone messaged me, and there's a video out there that basically says that someone sent Steve Goncalves something that was Kaylee's.
So we're working with them. We're not selling them out. We love our law support.
The FBI. Every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something.
On the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives, and this is the future of this community. There's going to be 10,000, 15,000 kids that come.
And I've been told that there were differences in the way that the victims were killed. Some were more severe than the other. And this week we heard the target attack walk back. And then can you tell us about the targeted attack?
They have told us that, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically a day or so later, and they said, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not, or they think the whole was kid. But
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of damage.
Cause of death. It does not match based on report.
They don't match.
Yeah.
Would indicate that one of them
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
the target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need
There you
somebody
have
to
it.
step up and be.
He says they don't match. They don't match. What in the reason? What in the reason would be they did not match? Yeah, I believe, Amanda, somebody had posted that it was some type of saint, um, like a Catholic pin or something of that nature, a medal, and yeah, something to that effect, but not sure. Yeah. So he says that they did not match. Their autopsies did not match. So he has the autopsies for Maddie and Kaylee, and for them to say they did not match didn't go against the gag order, because remember, the gag order was not in place until the fact that Judge signed that order. This interview was December the 4th. That gag order originally with Judge, I'm looking at the date of signature. That date of signature was not until June 23rd was the amended order. So he was talking very early on to the press, and he was giving pretty accurate information. Had he, obviously, family members can have access to the autopsies, guys. So for him to be sharing that information, that was pretty raw and that was pretty real. If you notice the look on his face and the pain in his eyes, you would know that this is truly a man who was in pain and was frustrated that they were not giving him the time of day to get the information that they needed. That is why he ran his own investigation when they cut him off and shut him down. I'm going to play this for about 2 more minutes and get into something else. Hold on.
Do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just gonna say it wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I was also told from sources that are closer to an investigation, because there was a lot of roommates in there. And this was horrific for those roommates that were there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The preservation of this crime scene. Witnesses tell me that it may have well been preserved because the phone was passed around between one of the fraternity members and the girls. One of them unfortunately witnessed the death, the body there. Can you confirm that?
We cannot actually. We know nothing about that whole phone call. We've asked, and it's. I mean, I know that a lot of people want to know, but that's just not our agenda. We just are like, somebody called 911. Somebody was reported unconscious. We don't really know. I mean, we've heard so many different things, and nothing has been clarified or been told to us at all. And I mean, I don't know if I personally have asked anything about that. I don't know if you've asked that. It's getting 3 weeks in, and it's starting to get reaching out. I've reached out to friends down in California today that have connections that we're hoping to raise some money to get a reward, to get a private investigator.
Y'all were at the end of this week, the this case may be
100%.
cold.
We're scared.
When you
We're
tell me you
scared.
don't want a photo up there with the reward offering information, that kind of stuff, to like story, why do you help? But hey, I could be wrong, and you officers, I apologize.
Yeah,
I want to,
absolutely.
please forgive me. But if you don't have the information, people do know. If they don't, IT based. These
Now remember, they were looking for answers. They wanted answers, and they are nowhere near they were back then than they are today. And that just hurts my heart for them, for this whole entire case. The media challenged the court in this case and lost because of a gag order. I mean, typically you see lawyers get out there and do press releases. You see lawyers talk to their inside sources. You see reporters call up buddies and friends that they've worked with in many other cases to get some information out to the public. And here they wanted to suppress everything. They didn't want to give any information out because they didn't want a trial by media. And look at what happened. This case was tried in the media. Who are they trying to protect? I don't think they're trying to protect Brian KOHBERGER at all. Totally flopped. The families were trying to get information. I've seen this in other cases where they just shut the family out. They don't give them any information. The family has to guess or hire third-party investigators, third-party attorneys, so that they could at least get information that the law enforcement is not allowing. So who was the law enforcement? Who were the courts at the time trying to protect? What information were they trying to protect? Who were they trying to protect? Their own butts? Their own employees? Who were they trying to protect? I have a feeling it's an individual that we've all been thinking about, that we've all been wondering about. Were the people who did this to these college kids trained? Was Brian perhaps the one watching or observing what was going on? Were there more than two people in that house while these kids were unalived? And why did they want to hide this other than the real reason is money? Money for the university, money they would have lost in enrollments, which they did. There was a statistic put out the following year that the enrollments were down 60% at that college, to the fact that the University of Phoenix decided not to purchase the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho, because of the low enrollments, because of the loss of funding, because of the loss of, money. And then obviously it all trickled down to the sororities. Many of them were put on notice. Many of them had loss of enrollments themselves. I mean, if you think about it, the sororities and the frats, they're about $4,500 a year to be a part of them. Think about how much money the Greek life lost. It's a business, guys. Giovanni, the enrollment went up the following year. But the year after that happened, the enrollments did go down almost 60%. It was actually in a study, in a news article that I read, it was 60% decreased enrollment. Then the following year, the enrollments were up. So follow the money, and the money begins right in the courtroom. They are the ones that have done a blackout for the media. They never got him a fair trial because these other media outlets ran with big news stories that made many believe that this guy was guilty even before they could get into a court trial. Huge. This story is so huge in itself. Why are no news agencies running with this story? Trial by media. Is that a real thing? Absolutely. We're seeing it play out. So many unanswered questions. This plea deal makes me think of even more questions than before. If you look at all the information that we've been given, and depending on how closely you followed this case, I mean, for a fact, he's still not charged in the state of Idaho's repository. There is no crime filed for Mr. KOHBERGER in the court of law. The only thing on his record is that alleged speeding ticket that led to a seatbelt ticket, which he paid $10 but never showed up. It was a failure to appear. And for all of these wondering, what am I talking about? It is not in the court repository. It's wild. I've never seen anything like this case, so wild in nature that it's not even in the repository. Blows my mind. So when you see things like this, you have to ask yourself, what is the truth? What are we really seeing? Is it just smoke and mirrors, or is it being hidden for a reason? What is the real deal? So if you want, you can go and look at the repository yourself. You can go see whatever it is that you need to see. But if you're asking this same question, why was the media shut out? We're the only news agencies reporting like the worst of the worst. Why were they not sharing the information that all of us should have access to in the beginning? It doesn't make sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then obviously it won't make sense to anyone else that's just starting to follow this case. I had somebody ask me today, oh my God, I didn't know they even arrested KOHBERGER. Yeah, he's been in prison for 2.7 years already. And, even though there's more DNA, they have no idea who it could possibly be. They're no further than they were the day that they started this. Did they know that there was unidentified DNA before the gag orders? Did they know there was unidentified DNA before arresting KOHBERGER? Because none of his DNA was at the crime scene other than on a sheath that was placed, that's what the documents say, placed next to Maddie Mogen's body. That's it. There was no other documentation, no other factual information. So this could have been anybody. This could have been you. This could have been your neighbor. This could have been anybody targeted for this crime. Anyone. So, anyone can go in the iCourt repository, look up KOHBERGER, look up his name, go see, just like Lori and Vallow and Chad Daybell. The only thing in the repository that I see, guys, is simply a ticket. That's all I see. Anyone can go check for themselves. So everything that you are listening to in the news, you have to question, is this really happening? Is this a true case? Is this what we're watching true to the best of your ability that you see? Is it true? Is it factual? And here is the only thing that I see on Bryan KOHBERGER, guys, is one little infraction ticket. You don't see murder charges. Infraction, they say it was a speeding ticket, lowered down to a seatbelt charge. Vehicle safety restraint, fail to use. That's what Deputy Duke at the time gave him a ticket for. But why was he assigned a prosecutor, Bill Thompson? Active attorney, Bill Thompson, right there. Because I can go back and I can show you exactly what a true murder charge looks like. Chad Daybell. All right, Chad, you're up. Let's see what you got. Here we go. Chad Daybell is going to give us some results, and you'll be able to see his murder charges right here in Fremont County. Let's see what he was charged with. Anyone, public, can look up this information. Data, Idaho, got an attorney retained. They went through a trial. All those felonies, those are his charges. Conspiracy murder, conspiracy murder, conspiracy murder, insurance fraud, insurance fraud. And they were all felonies on the date they charged him with. And he pled not guilty, and the disposition after trial was guilty for all. And his sentencing. Y'all can see that, right? How come we don't see that for KOHBERGER? Why don't we see that? Who is covering up and why? Who is so important that they have to hide this information for? Who is so important that they have to hide this? Yeah, Daybell was Chad with insurance fraud. Remember when they were collecting on the kids? They something about I can't remember exactly, but he was charged with insurance fraud. That was so long ago. You can go look up and see Lori Vallows, right? You can see her charges because honestly, she's nothing special. Oh shit, I can't type today. Sorry. She's nothing special. Her charges are in the repository. Anyone can go look these up, guys. Where are KOHBERGER's charges? That's what I want to know. Lori, here we go. She's got a criminal charge. I think it's this one. Why is BK so special that he doesn't have charges in the system? Now, these were her charges for arrest and seizures, obstructing justice, non-support of a child under 18. Those were her previous charges. Let me go back one, and it's got to be right above. Where are his charges? That's what I'm questioning. I'm questioning the court. You got everybody else is in there, and you've got this big old case that was evidence of conspiracy. You got these big cases in your state, but your state repository does not show him ever being charged with murder of 4 individuals. Don't you think that's pretty big? Here's Lori Vallows. Felony, conspiracy, murder, grand theft. Okay. She pled not guilty to all of those, and after her trial, found guilty. Felony sentence. Then they extradited her back to Arizona for her other court cases pending. But here's my point. Where are Bryan Kohberger's charges? Who knows? Who has the answer for this? Is he a special individual that they don't have him in the repository for a reason? Is somebody trying to hide this information? Is this something that nobody should ever look into? Or for some reason that they're trying to hide it, and then all this media stuff, it doesn't matter anymore because they have gag orders. They never sealed the file because the file is there. He has a record. He has a history with the state of Idaho. So who's hidden these charges? It's just another question that you have to start thinking about. So I'm going to sign off for now. I've been on a little longer than I wanted, but thank you for stopping by. I'm going to go catch Birdie live. If you aren't watching Birdie, he's at Birdie Bombshells, and I'm going to see who he's got on tonight. And take care. I saw BT in Pennsylvania before this happened. You know, there are some of his friends that are speaking out too tonight that say and claim they went to high school with him, but they are the individuals that are saying that he is definitely guilty without knowing any background or digging for a little bit of information other than what they've been believed to be told in the media. So I reached out to them. Hopefully we'll have them on one night. And thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I greatly appreciate you. Stay safe and be well.